Good morning.
Hello.
Dave, how are you doing? Oh, it could be evening for you. It's morning for me. How are you doing today?
Doing really good. Yeah, 8 o'clock from me, so not too late yet. I'm getting there. Yeah, doing really good though.
Awesome. It's Sunday for you, right? It's your end of your weekend. How's it been so far?
Yep, end of the weekend, Sunday night. It's been really busy because we're gearing up for the meet is tomorrow, which we'll get into. But yeah, so been pretty busy all weekend, kind of nonstop, just kind of going. So
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And thank you so much for giving me your time at such a crucial point of your project. I remember on 24 hours coming up to mint, I was frantic and refusing to do spaces at that point. So appreciate your time and your effort.
I probably should have just gone that route and just kind of hard declined everything. But we're in a pretty good spot actually. We got the art shipped off. We got I think the launch pads get all the information they need. So it is kind of a scramble, and it will continue to be, but it's sitting pretty good right now, all things considered, I think. So that's feels good.
That's good. I mean, that's a good place to be in, but it also makes you think like if everything's going smooth, maybe you've done something wrong. Something's about to come around from the corner and grab you.
Yeah, one massive thing you just forget to do that it's going to just ruin tomorrow. That's always in the back of the mind, I think, right?
Yeah, for me, definitely. I can't help but always think about what could go wrong.
Yeah. No, yeah.
All part of the risk management.
Yep. Well, I would say it's like stress-free over here or anything, but I think we're pretty good.
That's good, man. I'm glad. Yeah, so we'll just jump straight into it because this is more so an opportunity for me and anyone that joins and anyone that listens later on to kind of just get to know a founder of a project. And, the space is called Blood, Sweat and Tears because that's quite literally all we go through and all we get from launching a project, especially in this space. So it's more just an opportunity to kind of highlight you and yourself, what you do and kind of the pain and struggles that you've been through while getting ready for your mint and also launching a product, which I've been looking at as well yesterday and today, and it does look pretty good. I'm quite impressed with the flexibility on some of this, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, everyone, thanks for coming along today. This is Blood, Sweat and Tears, episode 2, where we highlight founders and just have a casual chat and see what's up. So again, dude, thank you so much for coming along. I am jumping right into it. I'm super curious. How long have you been in this space for now?
Yeah, I've been in the Solana NFT space like pretty much since right before the peak of the bull market, just kind of as a, someone that's kind of obsessively checking Magic Eden every day and just kind of following news. This is my first project as a founder and whatnot, but I've kind of just been obsessed with it it's funny, I kind of just lost track of time. So I don't even know if that was like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago or whatnot. As we were scaling up to, Solana was kind of hitting all-time high, kind of right before that is going on, and hopped on board. And I haven't really, just been kind of obsessed with it ever since.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
I'm a developer, professionally. And so I was kind of always interested in developing on, just using Solana and stuff, experimented with a lot of things, kind of was familiar with, kind of the process. He was always kind of tinkering and.
Yeah, I like that. I tell you what, I am bullish on founders that are also developers. I think it's so important. And I didn't know that myself until I started working with my business partner who's a developer. I did learn a bit. But when he and I started working together, it very quickly became me doing the business operations side of things, and he writes the code. But he's always preached to me, and I'm a firm believer in it now as well, that a founder must know his business. And so to be a developer and also run that project yourself, I think is so important. It's definitely possible to do it without it, but you're the visionary, right? You're the one that understands the product, you know what you're doing, and you're able to actually translate that to your team. So I'm curious, are you writing Rust smart contracts, or is it more so the front end, back end infrastructure?
So yeah, we haven't had to deploy our own contract yet. So we've basically been directly interacting with the protocols themselves and their contracts. So we're able to use a lot of their open sourced, APIs and SDKs and stuff that they've all provided out there. So that does help expedite and alleviate a lot of the, I think difficulty maybe of spinning up your entire own protocol. If I was the one doing that would have taken me quite a bit more time and headache. And as we go, that's definitely going to be more front and center as we have to, as things get more complicated, you have to start shipping more custom on-chain code, right? Programs like that, which we'll do. But yeah, initially we're just been interacting, more so directly, kind of build on top of those other platform programs.
Yeah. I did dive into it this morning mostly. I only just got into the kind of loan space recently, but I dove into it a bit more this morning. And yeah, I can tell now that is an API. So I've recently been looking at Hello Moon and some of the services they provide. Are you working with them using some of the APIs for Citrus through those guys?
No, we don't do anything through Hello Moon. I know that they offer some resources for that. We use, right, without making it like too much of a technical conversation, but so they have, each protocol kind of has their own like open source code that we kind of use for interacting. And then I use Helios, which is sort of similar to Hello Moon in some ways. And subscribe to like the program accounts of these loan platforms and loans that way. Yeah. So then Helios is kind of the main infrastructure provider for like the Solana data.
Helios is a good team as well. I recently got to work with them. Yeah, nice. So I've been looking through things, and before we go into that, maybe you just want to do a quick pitch of who you are, what you're doing, and what is Lender Labs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think I've said it, but thank you for hopping on and having me on too. I wasn't really connected with your project so much, so it's kind of fun to do like just a fresh space with a fresh project. So Lender Labs we're, first and foremost, we're a lending aggregator. We have tools built for lenders and borrowers. If anyone wants to check it out while we're talking, it is ungated and through the Mint, so it's Lender Labs at XYZ. We'll check it out if you haven't. Our kind of main focus is targeting and building tools for active lenders and borrowers. So people that are pretty active in managing their portfolio, kind of building tools and features that just kind of make their life a little easier, save time in what they're trying to do. And even if you're not like a big whale and you've got like 1,000 solid that you're trying to get out there, even if you have a smaller portfolio, but you're trying to kind of maintain an edge and kind of maximize your returns on that, we try to build tools for you. So that's kind of the mission statement that we've been kind of building towards. We launched actually back in January of this year. So we've been around a while, just kind of building. We got users pretty much on the platform right away. Like co-founder Soisy, who was more kind of on the business development side, and he's got a few different projects that he kind of runs and he kind of helps out with, on the business side. He's got an existing audience, people that are lending. So we're able to kind of get a few users on right away to check it out, people that were interested, and just kind of keep building it from there ever since January. So, a lot of the product we have today is based on user feedback and just, continue to work through stuff and kind of build.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. Like I said earlier, I've only just kind of started to get into the lending space, just dipped my toe in recently. I started off using Citrus. Yeah, it's an interesting one. There's a lot going on, especially now that Citrus has implemented all these new features with reloaning, I think, or offering a loan extension, all that sort of stuff. So no doubt that kind of adds more spanners into your work, because now you've got to continue to implement all these new features, and now that Citrus is doing features and Sharky isn't, how far, do you have teams actively monitoring these platforms and making sure you are staying up to date? How does that process work for you?
So right now it's a really small team. It's only me and then Storzy comes on the business side. And recently, month or so, kind of bring on and some additional front end developer help and a UX designer. But for the most part, it's kind of just myself kind of running the product and building out that. And really, it just actually preface too, it is my full-time job now. So as of April, it's, my full-time focus. And so I just kind of stay pretty up to date on, changes that any of the protocols are making, new features that they ship. So that's currently how it runs, is just making sure that we don't fall behind. And if something doesn't work too, users are pretty gracious and, let us know like, hey, this isn't working all of a sudden. It was working yesterday. So that's happened a few times where it's like, oh, I got to update, update the library or something. But, for the most part, it's just kind of staying up to date and listening to when things are changing. Yeah, they are adding features, and Sharky has added some stuff too. But we'll see if they kind of pick up the pace a little bit. That was kind of a common complaint people had for a while. It's, it's not always about adding and covering every single feature or every single angle, in my opinion. It's kind of, find the space where, not that the main protocols did it wrong or didn't, it's not to making that what they did better, but maybe kind of changing something or adding an extra layer to it where it makes sense, that just can make people's lives a little easier and kind of add a little convenience.
And that's an interesting point, because sometimes in some cases, and I can't say this too much because it's not the case for our own project, but in some cases, it's not about the added technology, but it's about the added usability. Yeah. And how can you make this easier and more digestible digestible for those that are using it every day. And I will say, from what I can tell, based on what you have and what your competitors have, obviously there's like the beautification of it all, but I personally like the simplification that you guys are offering. But you've also got the additional management options, which I did like. So for me coming into this, like all I want to see is my loans, the offers, everything that's there. And you pretty much cover that in a nice, simple way. So I think like they're offering this simplicity while also providing the features for someone to manage their portfolio. I think that's a win. And you're not complicating anything. It's like, this is exactly what you need to be able to manage something. And here you go.
That line, like, I think you spoke to like what my at least intention was around like the product design aspect. Like kind of my biggest thing is like, don't show numbers if they're not actionable. Like if it doesn't really matter for what you're trying to do, then don't even show it. A lot of times you think like a screen or a certain aspect, they'll just kind of throw numbers on there because they're vaguely relevant maybe, but they're not going to actually impact your decision, in a way that actually matters. And I try to be pretty like strict about like, is it a number for the sake of having a number, or will that impact me deciding to create an offer on this collection or not? And so I kind of really try to stick to that, as well as like keeping things simple. So like there's less numbers, there's less, cluttering that happens, but also keep things. So like if you want to see more information with a collection, there's just like a more button right there that pops up. There's a pop-up bed and you can see like an extra in-depth amount of stats. And then on that screen, there's a button to go to like a full page clinic collection breakdown with like more charts and graphs. So like the option of like digging deeper into a particular item is there, but like the surface level, you're not seeing it if you don't care. You know what I mean? I think that that's kind of been my attempted to build for.
Yeah, absolutely. Reduce noise. I think those that are actually providing the service, they're the ones that have to include that noise because people are going to ask for it. But you've got the luxury of being the aggregator. You can kind of cancel out all that noise, all the unneeded information, and have exactly what's needed. So I like it, actually. I'm fairly impressed. I think you've done exactly what is needed to be able to integrate and communicate with all these other lending platforms. So I'm going to be interested in using it. Now, I have to talk about the mint, of course, and I know you want to as well. So if you want to tell me a little bit more about that, supply, price, and then even just some details around what the NFT is going to be used for, if there is any utility, or is it just an art collection, sorry.
Yeah, sure. I'll give the spiel.
Go for it.
So yeah, we're minting tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern, and that'll be on the Tayo's platform, Saltport. Whitelists are locked up, but there's going to be a public raffle. So encourage people to try their luck at getting one of those. Collection size is 55.55. Mint price is 3 Sol. And so in terms of a utility, so it is pretty actually directly tied to the platform as far as the utility goes. We have 3 different tiers. If you hold 1 NFT, you get access to those lending tools that we're talking about that you're using. So the dashboard will be gated by holding one NFT. If you hold 3 NFTs in the second tier, we also have some additional loan notifications that you can subscribe to. And currently it's a Discord DM, but we're going to add support for like Dialect, which kind of covers Telegram and email and text. But those are related to your loan events. Right now, it's just for lenders, but it will let you know if a loan is taken, if a loan is repaid. We also give you kind of a 5-minute warning if the loan is about to default and can be collected. And then we also do a weekly summary report based on your lending. So you can kind of see stats and like your percent return, kind of some other fun stats and like what was your quickest loan of the week, if one got paid back really early. So kind of just like a little fun recap that, it's fun to see. So that's if you hold 3. But then we're actually also building some tools around automation. So it's a program, it's like a bot that runs locally on your computer, on your machine, and it automatically adjusts offers for you. Currently it supports Sharky, so it's going to be available at launch or at mint. And that'll be available if you hold 20 NFTs. So it's a bit of a jump up, but it's kind of a premium, kind of high-end item. And it'll so you can set a certain amount of parameters per collection. It'll be, what's the max LTF or the max loan to floor you're willing to go to, as well as a max loan amount. So if like the floor pumps like a lot and then the loans kind of follow up, you won't kind of get stuck out with a really high loan because the floor pumps, but then a lot of times, the floors kind of will retract a little bit like after a big pump. So it kind of protects you from that. And it kind of has a few other things as well, just to make your life a little easier. So that's the third tier, and that's if you hold 20. So that's kind of the main utility so far of the NFTs. Plus the art actually turned out way sicker than I even thought it would. We had a lot of fun. I just gotta say, like, we built the project first, right? So we spent a few months like just working the project, not really thinking too much about the NFT, kind of trying to brainstorm like how we might do it or what we're gonna do. And we were kind of brainstorming different animals and then just kind of talking about turtles and kind of talking through trait. And it was like a surprising amount of kind of fun, nostalgic references with turtles that you didn't really expect. Like obviously Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you can see from like the profile picture of the Letter Labs account. You know, you got like Pokemon, like Blastoise, we got a cool Blastoise shell, some Mario references, you know, don't tell Nintendo, but you know, Blue Shell and, you know, the Blue Shell with wings and stuff like that. And there was like a surprising, just like super fun time kind of exploring some like nostalgic turtle stuff, which really turned out well. The artist killed it, super fun. So I think it's gotten really good feedback. So I'm pretty pumped with how the art came out, considering it wasn't like, you know, art first and then like, oh, let's think of a utility too to tack along with it.
I am a fan of the turtles. Very cool. So this automation tool gated it by 20 NFTs, sir. And that automation tool, like I'm looking at it now in settings. I don't see much information on there at the moment.
Yeah, I will say that settings page is not it's kind of a hastily assembled page for like the beta test people that were beta testing it.
Gotcha.
So like if you filled it out right now, nothing would really happen. You know, it just has saved your settings to the database, but nothing would turn on. So that's probably not.
So tell me more about this automation tool, because that's probably something I would be interested in looking at a bit more.
Sure. Yeah. So it's like a CLI tool. It runs on the command line or, you know, on your computer locally. So your private key stays on your local machine, doesn't get sent back and forth to the server or anything like that. Kind of, you know, safety security measure. And yeah, it just kind of helps manage your offers and keep them competitive. So one thing it'll match the current best offer, but it doesn't outbid it. And I think that's kind of a key differential because, you know, let's say we launched and we had 100 people that did it. And then all of a sudden we just unleashed like 100 bots that are just like overbidding every collection. And all of a sudden everybody's got, you know, every collection's constantly, you know, LTF is going way up. So we don't do that. And we just match the top offer. But it keeps it competitive, and it's shown that people that are testing it have had really good luck getting loans and getting capital deployed, and keeps their funds moving.
So the automation it's run through the CLI. So you aren't using a smart contract for the automation tool?
No, so it's like a packaged executable, it's like a node app. Right, that just runs the command line. And it's the thing I really wanted to make sure was that it was easy to just install and run. So there's no like external dependencies you have to get. There's no like additional programs, and several of the people that are testing it, I would say are not, they're not like, I think they would all, like, a lot of them would say they're not like the most tech savvy people. So, and they haven't really had any problems. It's pretty straightforward to just install, kind of run a command just to set it up and then let it run. So that's how it's going to be at launch. I could see us kind of exploring doing things more on chain, like you're talking about, and more with the smart contract, and kind of automate stuff using more of like a pool model or something with a specific, I can't remember the type of account it would be, but there's fireworks. Sorry if there's loud bangs above me. I could see us going down that route in the future, but for now, yeah, it's kind of a CLI tool.
Yeah. So that sounds interesting, and I do like that. I guess, like, just thinking out loud with that one, are you concerned about distributing an XE and the negative impacts it could have if someone were to replicate it and fill it with malware?
Yeah, I mean, definitely very concerned about the security implications of that, certainly.
We were going to do something similar with our market make tool, but I ended up putting a hard no on that, simply because I'm just too nervous to have a branded XE out there that someone could potentially fill with dirty bugs and put it out. So now I'm also curious, can someone just send that to their friends?
No, so it doesn't, your private key stays on your local computer, but it does call to the server to get the loan and offer data, just so it knows, what offers you have and which ones to adjust. And in that process, like, invalidate what address it's using and, whether that address has access or not,
Yeah.
So it's not, when you can't just share it around, and use it wherever.
Yeah. So the basically the PC has to be whitelisted.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, you'd have to. Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting because that entire XE could be resolved with a open source wallet that stores private keys on the local PC. I think someone did actually come up with that a few months ago. I'd have to recheck it. But like, the reason why you can't run that in a browser is mostly because you don't have a wallet that can auto approve and place these transactions without the signer. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. You need the private key in order to, approve the transactions. And I kind of debated quite a while whether, whether a CLI or like a local to the machine system was right, or if, a hosted solution where maybe we create a new wallet for people to deposit funds into and then manage. And I could see us kind of going more the managed route. But my biggest thing is, while our resources are fairly limited to just me, I wanted to make sure there was pretty simple and pretty like locked up from just a security standpoint, because it's, I definitely don't want to.
You don't want that responsibility.
I don't want to have like, 100 private keys on a single server. Much rather spread them out, right? And just much better just in terms of like potential breaches. So, we don't have anything like that.
Yeah, you're better off sacrificing usability over security. Obviously, running through the CLI can be quite tricky because not everyone has that installed and there's an entire process to go through. But yeah, I mean, it sounds really interesting. It sounds like you are quite a big brain on all of this, which is very exciting. It's good to see a founder is actually the developer of the project. Yeah. That doesn't usually happen, right? We always see a lot in this space is someone that has bags coming in and basically, just paying devs and trying to get the work done. But that can always lead to complications because they don't know their product, They can't sit down with a dev and say, what are your issues and concerns and can we work through them? It's more so just fix it, just get it done. But yeah, it's good to see that like you're passionate about this, you're full-time in the space now, which is beautiful. What made you go full-time?
Kind of a convenient layoff, to be honest.
That severance package.
Yeah, I got, I was a consultant before, like a software engineer consultant, and my placement ended on the Friday, beginning of April. So I rolled off a client gig, and then on Monday, kind of got laid off with like 15 people or so, just due to markets being how they were, and they didn't have enough, new client work coming in. So that was kind of right when we were really amping up kind of this next, phase, and starting to get ready for this mint that we're doing, and could tell that the project had a lot of potential, and we already had a lot of users and quite a bit of volume and everything going. So it felt like the potential was there, and it was able to somehow convince my wife that I didn't have to get another job right away, and let's just like get to the mint at least, and like focus on this and see how it progresses. But yeah, it was kind of just like good timing, and I particularly like that job that I was doing, so I wasn't too bummed about having to stop doing it and just focus on this full time. So
perfect. That sounds really cool. I just want to take a moment to kind of share what we're about. I know that if I didn't, and I said this last time as well, next time I won't, my community would not be pleased with me not sharing about the wonderful things going on at GigaDAO with GigaDEX. So just really quickly, what we're building is we've actually built Solana's first crankless order book. We deployed that last year in November. So essentially we are processing transactions at around 400 milliseconds, which is 2 to 3 times faster than the Serum order book, which we were very proud of and happy to actually achieve. It was a big step up for us. And so we've gone full time into trying to release the most performant DEX on Solana. And what we're actually going to be doing is we're introducing NFT fractionalization, where essentially we're going to be turning an NFT into fractions. And I know it's been such a stigma in the past because it hasn't worked as well, but the implementation of an order book, an exchange, and fractionalization, I think, is what's going to work and what's probably needed. As we know, Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum, they're all fractionalized. The reason why you can invest in crypto is because you don't have to buy one Bitcoin every time. You can buy 0.00001 of a Bitcoin. So why can't we use that same process for NFTs? And so what we've actually done, and we're actually going to be launching very, very soon. I won't give an exact date because I'm going to later today. We've built an NFT fractionalization DEX where users are actually able to place limit orders, place market orders, and start trading those fractions in replacement of NFTs. So that like the best benefit it does really for the entire Solana ecosystem is a collection like Mad Lads, which is currently sitting around 90 to 100 sol floor, is through fractionalization, anyone can now get an entry on that collection. I think the lowest would be at 90 sol is 0.09 sol for one fraction. So we're looking at an opportunity now where everyone can start to benefit from the gains of these top collections, and people are actually also able to start to DCA, take profits at the top. If you own one Mad Lads, the only way for you to take profits is to sell your entire position. And And that doesn't make sense because what if it goes up later? So if you were to fractionalize that NFT, you could sell 20% at the top, take some profits, and then you can decide what you want to do from there. If it goes up more, you can sell some more. If it goes down, you can buy in at a better price and pocket the additional money that you've made there. So obviously this market isn't great for it right now, but we believe that we could really start a little bit of a change here in implementing the most performant order book on Solana along with NFT fractions. It should be pretty exciting. And we've also got the whole SPL side of things that we're going to be implementing soon. And on top of all of that, we are going to be putting in margin and leverage. So no doubt in a few months' time, we are going to be looking at being able to short and long these NFT projects in a more sustainable way. So that's what we're about. That's what we're working towards at the moment. Our official DEX launch V2 is coming out this week, and it should be pretty exciting for everyone.
That's awesome. Can I ask you questions about it too?
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually did a lot with Solvent, which had a kind of NFT fractionalization setup as well. Did a lot of like arbitrage between Magic Eden and whatnot and Solvent back in the heyday. I know they're different setup than you guys, but I'm kind of familiar with the concept. I think it's kind of through the blood, sweat, and tears of kind of having to wrap your brain around NFT fractionalization. I kind of understand it at least a little bit. Do you have like a standard conversion rate? Is it like 100 pieces or how many? What's
1,000 to 1.
1,000.
Yeah. So how it's going to work is you will fractionalize one NFT for one SPL token, but that SPL token has 3 decimals. So technically it's 1,000 pieces, but it's just one token.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's one. Okay, I see what you're saying. Gotcha.
So it's 1 for 1, and the SPL token. So let's say it's Mad Lads. That one Mad Lads that you get has 3 decimal places, so you can sell as low as 0.001 Mad Lads token.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah. And we fractionalize by collection as well. I don't think I mentioned that, but it's not at an NFT level. It's at a collection level. So we don't see rarities. We don't that's not on the plate at all, because when you fractionalize your Mad Lads NFT, that Mad Lads NFT goes into a collection pool, and anyone can buy the Mad Lads tokens from the order book. Once they have the one full Mad Lads token, they can then go and exchange that token for any of the Mad Lads NFT in that collection pool.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Are you going to launch like kind of a limited amount of collections initially?
Yeah, I mean, because we are going to be a new platform, we're not going to have all the orders in the world going through. So in order to just ensure it looks beautiful, we are going to be limiting the collections that are available, just because, if we go ahead and start listing all of them, we're going to have a bunch of empty order books, and we don't really want to simulate a platform that doesn't look like it's moving. So we are definitely going for the top traded collections to start off with, the ones that are most desirable right now. Generally, whatever's in the top 12 is going to be uploaded onto GigaDEX. Although we do have a little bit of friction there. Because PNFTs do exist now, we do have to put a little bit more work into making sure that those founders or the collection is okay with us listing them, because, we are going to be paying royalties at the time of redemption, but the tokens themselves, there's no royalties being paid there. We are giving trade fees to those collections, but yeah, it's basically a PNFT collection adds risk because they can block our smart contract at any time. So it's not a free open market anymore. We do have to put a little bit more work in there to build these relationships with project founders. But, once they give us the go ahead and say, look, we don't care, but we're definitely not going to be blocking any smart contracts, we go ahead and list them.
Is I'm not like super knowledgeable in how the PNFT works exactly, but would a new program be like on the allow list by default? Because I know there's kind of that, the list.
Yes. Yeah, there's only a deny list now, and based on what we can see now, it's up to the collection to deny a smart contract or not.
Okay, at least you have to fight an uphill battle right off the bat.
Yeah, so, but that's what adds more complexity and risk. I'm glad it did go to a deny list, because by default, we are allowed. But at the same time, if we have NFTs that are fractionalized and they deny list us, it's just going to be messy and PR work and all that sort of stuff for us. So it does make it a little bit more trickier, but I mean, we live in a world where the Solana ecosystem ecosystem, especially community projects, do rely on royalties. So I understand the requirement for royalties to exist. I just wish it wasn't enforced on such a centralized level. But it's fine. We're working with it. And, I've managed to reach out to a few different PNFT collections now that are in the top 12, and they've given me the okay that they're not going to be blocking any smart contracts. So we're going ahead. We are going to be paying royalties at the redemption side for those PNFT collections. But for the most part, like we are giving our trade fees back to collection founders. Essentially, we've created a multi-sig wallet for all of these markets, and 20% of our trade fees, of the trade fees that go through, will go to that multi-sig wallet, and they can claim that wallet at any time.
Really cool. I was curious. So is there a like a main pair that like the fractions are associated with? Like is it like related to USDC or?
Pairs are always going to be NFT fraction Sol. It's always going to be Sol because no one trades USDC for NFTs in the Solana ecosystem.
And that's what I think that'll be much more stable, because one thing that happened with Solvit, which it's sort of a similar model, but a little bit, different, but they still had the kind of that same underlying, fractionalization that was happening. And initially they were paired with USDC, which caused like the arbitrage and like the volatility of those pairs to like really drastically change based on the price of Solana, and, definitely made things wonk. They switched to like a V2 to be paired with Sol and made things much more stable, which reduced some of like the general arbitrage based on like Solana volatility, but I think probably still made a more consistent just overall experience for people that were trading in general.
Yeah, I mean, most Solana users will trade with Solana, and I don't think there is any platform out there that offers USDC as a default. So it's just like rule of thumb, NFTs and Solana goes together perfectly. We can introduce pairs. That does kind of make our markets a little bit less liquid, because obviously you open up another market, you've got to try and get liquidity into that market too. But I think later down the line, there's a good opportunity to open up pairs for those collections, and I mean the ARB opportunity will be there for sure if we can attract the liquidity to the initial market. So it's certainly there and an opportunity when that does arise. But how we see it is we need to focus on the Solana community, what they know best, what makes sense for them, obviously, because this is such a wildly different technology. I was so surprised at how many Solana users have never used an order book before. When I first came into this space, it's all we had, and now it's like this foreign piece of technology that just doesn't get used. So we've already got an uphill battle with re-educating users around an order book, why it's important, why it actually matters. So that's already kind of our first battle there. Then you've got the NFT fractionalization on top of that, and everything that comes with it. So we're sticking to the basics, keeping that one pair for Solana, and it should be an exciting time. We recently had another project come up saying that they created an NFT order book, and I think there's another project about to do the same thing. So there's a bunch of noise and a bunch of opportunities for us to leverage in educating and teaching and getting exposure for our product.
Yeah, that's kind of a good sign probably if there's, it's kind of a bummer when you're like, oh, it's another competitor, but when it's someone that can, when like your specific niche kind of gets more attention, more eyes, that probably just means you'll get more attention too in the long run. So as long as, your product kind of stands up by itself, then it's, probably net still benefit when activity heats up. So
yeah, absolutely. And I'm not overly concerned, because at the end of the day, an NFT order book, though it will be this fancy new thing, it can't sustain growth of margin trading platform, because you still have an NFT worth 90 Sol that you have to try and open a margin position on. So I've been through it. It doesn't quite work where how we're doing it with the fractionalization, we can build margin directly on top of that. No problem at all. And so it's like, in terms of scalability, we're always going to be ahead on that part. Fractionalization, it just needs to be kind of educated, taught, and proven why it's important. But yeah, I think we're getting there. I welcome competition because it makes us grind, 3 times harder.
Definitely. Yeah, it's you gotta have to be, you just gotta be, have that competitive nature, I think, sometimes, especially when it's, relatively small community like that we're in, I think, currently. And bringing it back to like what we're doing, I think it actually makes a lot of sense from, a person's perspective that's maybe looking looking to take on a loan, which is to kind of surface that like trade-in value, because you'll have kind of like an inherent, what is it worth in your marketplace, and you're kind of another marketplace related to all the other ones or the other loans. And I was kind of thinking it might make sense to have you kind of on the borrower aggregation side as like an opportunity or a place where they could really quickly just access liquidity. And, it's not a loan because they're probably going to be just transferring right for, Sol, and they're doing their other thing. But, it might be a good opportunity for, just having our borrower aggregator as an instant liquidity option.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The implementation of limit orders. Yeah. I'm down for that. Let's work on that a bit more. Any integrations and collaborations is always welcome. I'm interested to see what happens with your mint and your collection, and there might even be opportunity to get you guys fractionalized if you'll let me.
Oh yeah, we're top tool for sure. So yeah, you can put us in there if you want.
Yeah, nice. I'll check it out. And so we are kind of getting close to that 1 hour mark, and I don't want to go over that. So is there any kind of closing statements or any information that you really want to get out there right now to those that are listening and those that will listen later?
Sure. Yeah. Like we said before, we're minting tomorrow. We're going to be minting on the Tayo Robotics platform support. The mint is at 12 p.m. Eastern. Price is 3 Sol. If you haven't tried out Lender Labs or like our site, our lending aggregator, recommend you check it out. It'll be gated after mint, but for now it's wide open. So Lender Labs at XYZ. If you're more of the borrowing type as well, we do have a borrower aggregator at borrow.lenderlabs.xyz. So recommend you go check all that out as well. And if you don't have whitelist yet, we do have a public raffle going to be running for the last 150 NFTs, after the whitelist phase ends. So that'll be at an hour later, so 1 p.m. Eastern.
And how are you running those raffles?
So that's just using their platform directly, so they can have it built in, where I think a raffle entry is going to be 0.1 Sol, and then if you win, or if you get selected, then you can buy it for the same whitelist price of 3 Sol.
Nice. Okay, cool. So Mint's coming up tomorrow. All the whitelist spots are obviously consumed now because you're less than 24 hours away. You've got a raffle for, was it 150?
Yeah. Yep. The final 150. So the whitelist phase is like 2,500. And then we sold about 50% in pre-sales. So
awesome. Okay, that's sick. So I'll definitely try and pick one up. I'm not whitelisted. I'm not pre-saled. Unfortunately, being a founder, I'm always out of touch with this space. So don't take it personally, but I will definitely pick one up on secondary because I do want to keep using your platform, and I'm interested in seeing how the automation will work.